One of the big issues that I have, because my ADHD is so bad, I'll be in a show having a conversation and you'll say something that's a really valid point. My wheels will start spinning and I'll have to make a point. And I'm sitting there in my head like, James, shut the fuck up. Yeah. Let him finish the point. Let him finish the point. Like in my head, I'm saying this to myself, but my mouth starts moving and starts saying the point because I need to get it out. And I literally physically cannot stop it from doing that. And I'm talking to myself, James, don't fucking say it. Don't fucking say, oh, here it is, everybody. And he's in the middle of the conversation. And I'm like, fuck, I just interrupted this guy. And I do it all of the time. And I critique myself heavily. Like as I'm doing it, I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. I should have waited. Yeah. But I literally can't help myself sometimes. Like I'm like itching, like fucking a little kid ready to jump on a trampoline. Before we can even remember, they've been programming us to think a certain way and act a certain way. And I truly believe it's only by God's grace that we've been given the gift of sight and be able to see through that trillions of dollars of brainwashing that they've tried to. It's truly a blessing. It's a gift and a curse at the same time, because it is, for many years it was very difficult, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't want to be one of these people getting vaccinated and falling for this nonsense, because we're seeing the consequences of that now, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, when it's funny, I had a doctor that that gave me an epidural at one time.
I've had a few of those.
Yeah, they never work.
Nope.
But he asked me, he said, are you vaccinated? I was like, oh no, I don't believe in suicide. He didn't think it was funny, but his nurses, you could tell they were holding in they were trying not to crack up. They went like that because,
oh, it's sad.
Yeah. I mean, it is sad. And that was before we even that most people had the information. I was blessed in the circle that I was in, that I hear about stuff from doctors, from actual boots on the ground doctors. The doctors they hear are not boots on the ground on the doctors. They're doctors that used to be doctors or just have that degree, but they've been an administrator for way too long.
And also big pharma education is
exactly they're trained to think medicine works. And that's more important than actual nutrition and stuff like that.
Without a doubt.
But it's, in fact, if it wouldn't been for January 6th, that's exactly what got me to start paying attention. And the conferences I go on is because I went to January 6th. I have no idea. 3 days before January 6th, I tell my wife, I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to go there. I had no idea why. I was not politically involved at all. I didn't volunteer at that time. I wasn't doing anything. I had nothing, no part of anything. The only thing I had was my t-shirt business I was trying to start. Other than that, I didn't even pay attention to all this stuff. But I said, I feel like I'm supposed to go. And she said, okay. I didn't know how I was going to go. I was dirt broke. I didn't, I actually put a post on Facebook. Said, hey, is anybody going to be going down there? I'd like to go, and if I could catch a ride. I end up riding with a guy that actually ran for mayor in Tulsa. But of course, our mayor, which is actually a Democrat, but he's registered Republican, bought and paid for his mayorship.
Typical.
If it says anything, in the top 20 most dangerous cities in America, Tulsa is actually in there, and it's the only city that is a Republican city, but he actually is a Democrat and runs it like a Democrat city. So
sounds about right.
Yeah. But anyway, so somebody popped up, I got a ride with them, and actually I didn't have the money for a hotel or anything. I stayed with them and ended up going. And it was that visit that got me to start getting involved, and started going to this conference. That's what got me to start knowing about the all the medical stuff, all the voting stuff, everything. And it got me all these connections. I mean, I met you,
without a doubt. Yeah.
A lot of people, most of my guests are people that I met at the conference, all simply because I listened to my gut. Depending on the religion you talk to, the spiritual beliefs you talk to, it could be source, it could be your guides, it could be God, whatever it was. Something told me I have to go. I have no choice. And it didn't even make sense because I wasn't politically involved or motivated. I didn't even listen to most of Trump's speech. I was waiting at the porta potty trying to go piss for 3 hours
because there's so many fucking people.
Oh yeah, we were you know, as we used to say, we were nut to butt. I mean, it was just tight.
That's what I heard.
Yeah,
it was fucking nuts.
It was when they say I heard people say that, oh, there was only like 200,000 or 100,000 or even
2.5 million.
I was like, yeah, I said, listen, I saw the pictures of the Million Man March. There were twice as many people there. Twice as many people there.
Yeah, there's a video that just came out of somebody standing in a tree. And they're just like panning the crowd. And there's not a point in the video where you can see the horizon. It's just people.
Exactly. And in the Million Man March, there were lots of places that were sparse and stuff. They were all centered in one area.
These people were fucking jam packed.
Yeah. You had no area to go or anything.
Sardines.
It was horrible. But it was wonderful also because me, especially at that time, you know, PTSD, I go everywhere with a gun. I was not armed that day. We thought, you know, it'd probably be smart not to. We weren't sure if they were going to frisk us or whatnot. So let's just not do it. We don't know what's going to happen because there's always, you know, there's always people
Antifa
like and BLM and stuff that go in there and
which were heavily there.
They were. I saw them. I took a picture of one on our way there on the subway.
Well, the cops, there's a video now that just came out yesterday of one of the Metro police officers talking about how they're going to be disguised as Antifa in the crowd.
Wow. I wouldn't doubt that.
Just got released yesterday.
Yeah. And so when I went, I felt safer than I've ever felt anywhere. And I was talking to people and we were all getting along and there were all races of people. I mean, there were even transvestites. Well, sorry, they call them transgenders now, but transgenders. I mean, there were black, white, a lot of Chinese that were out there handing out, like with the Epoch Times, you know, handing stuff out and stuff. It was a wonderful experience. And I was there from the early morning. And of course we left around 3:00, you know, when we heard Ashley Babbitt got shot and stuff. But, you know, it's when they. Oh,
you guys heard that while you were in the crowd? Like you got that information?
Yeah, we got the information. We heard a girl got shot by the police. We're like, nobody was even armed. Nobody was violent. You know,
it made no sense.
We were singing the national anthem when they started pepper spray, or it wasn't pepper spray. It was gas.
They did flash bangs, gas, concussion grenades. They threw all of it.
Yeah. And the thing about it is it's kind of like, you know, and I went through some specialized training, like alert training. I went through street crimes and I went through read, interview, and interrogation, that stuff. And street crimes is associated with read, interview, and interrogation. Sorry, stumbling over my words. But
it's all right.
One thing that they spoke about was like the Rodney King beating. They said the problem wasn't, and it sounds bad at first until I finish the sentence. The problem with the Rodney King was not that they were hitting him; it's that they weren't hitting him hard enough. That sounds horrible, but what it's saying is they were trying to hurt him. They weren't trying to stop him. You know. When you're trying to stop something, you don't hit somebody just hard enough to piss them off. You know, you actually have to do something. And when the officers started throwing flash grenades. They would throw one, and it would be up in the sky, and it'd blow up way above us, and they would only do it every few minutes. You know,
it's going to piss everybody off. That's what they were trying to do.
Yeah. And then same thing with gas, same thing with bullets. I have rubber bullets here that I kept as a memento. But
That's
none
hilarious.
of it was enough to hurt anybody. And I'm sitting here right next to a Vietnam vet that is in a wheelchair and has an oxygen mask on. You know, there were people that were in the crowd.
Yeah,
you know,
it was.
We were allowed there. I saw the officers firsthand move the barricades so we could walk in.
Yep. They opened up a 2-ton steel door that can only be opened from the inside. Like it's impossible to open from the outside. They just opened it up. What do you think people are going to do?
Yeah. There was a girl there. A lady. She was older than me. And we became instant friends. We actually hung out the whole time. Well, when we went up there, we got separated. and she's this little tiny woman. I'm not going to mention her name, because she was scared. She lives up there, and so she's one of the odd ones that's a conservative when everybody's liberal. But she said she was just standing outside in the front, and then everybody just started pushing, like this river of people started going inside the building. So she said, I had no choice. I was stuck between people. She was so small. If she didn't move with the crowd, she was going to get trampled on. And she goes in, she said she was polite to the officers. She said, thank you for your service. They were really polite back. Everybody stayed, but on the
between the velvet ropes.
The velvet ropes. She said it was like they were going through a museum. They go around, they look at things, they ooh and all that stuff, and then they exit the exit. That's how it went.
Yeah, and they followed the shaman around with cameras and Capitol Police. Like it's comical.
Yeah, and it's like it didn't make sense. But she was nervous because she saw people were getting arrested, and they were using the 9/11 Patriot Act.
Of course they were.
These guys, and I said this in my interview with Lee Dundas, who is an international human rights attorney, and I told her this was my perspective. I didn't say it was a fact or anything, but this is the way I saw it. I said the Patriot Act totally did something that is you can't do, but they did it. They took your constitutional rights away if you are an insurrection, a terrorist or something of the sort. That's why
they could detain you indefinitely.
That's why they kept on using the word insurrection, because then you get rid of all your Bill of Rights. They said, and that's what they said. They convinced everybody at 9/11 that we've got to do this to be able to stop terrorism, so nothing like this happens again. Well, that was very convenient. So basically, all we have to do is say something was an insurrection, and then take your due process away. Keep you. There's the police officer. That he was not a police officer there, but he was a cop. He was there. He was trying to help a woman. I believe it was a woman that got beat to death by a cop. Ended up dying, I believe. Either dying or getting beat really hard. I can't remember. That unfortunately, this sounds bad, but that wasn't the important part of the story to me. I mean, it was important what happened.
Yeah, no, I get it,
but it wasn't talking about him. He was just trying to help her, and he gets charged. They come and raid his house, takes him to jail. He gets charged with beating an officer, which he never even came in contact with another officer.
Of course. Yep.
And gets charged and is in there for 500 and something days before he even gets to talk to his wife and his children. And he's in confined. He knows nothing. He didn't even know what he was charged for. They didn't have to do anything. I'm like, and yet we're not in the streets saying, "Hey, this is wrong."
Yep. We had
on podcasts.
So Stuart Rhodes, he's the founder of the Oath Keepers. He's been on the show. He has a Yale law degree. Very, very smart individual. Never stepped foot in the Capitol. He's a veteran. Never stepped foot in the Capitol. He got charged with sedition and conspiracy and sentenced to 18 years. Never stepped foot in the Capitol. Jeremy Brown, a very good friend of mine on the show, has called in a few times. He's a Green Beret veteran, sergeant in the Green Beret. And he's the one that blew the whistle. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security came to his house and asked him, because he's a Green Beret veteran, he holds a lot of clout in these organizations like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. So they came to his house and was like, hey, listen, can you infiltrate these two organizations and report back to us? And because he was in the Green Beret and did so many intelligence operations, he knew exactly what they were doing. So he recorded the conversation and blew the whistle on it. This was before January 6th. So he knew exactly what they were trying to do. And he blew the whistle. He went to January 6th, didn't step foot in the Capitol, was actually doing security on the perimeter. They raided his house in Florida for over 5 hours, and they charged him for things that they allegedly found in his house while he wasn't home. And he's now in prison because of it and hasn't gotten out.
See, that's
like, this is what they're doing. This is what they're, like you said earlier, they're not finding a crime and searching for the perpetrator. They're looking for the perpetrator and finding a crime to charge them with. That's exactly what's like. They had no legal authority to go into his house. No, nothing. He did nothing wrong. He was just there, exercising his First Amendment right. And just because he blew the whistle, because you guys came to him and was like, hey, can you be a whistleblower for us and be an asset and tell us what the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys are doing? Because he's a sergeant in the Green Beret. He walks into any of those rooms, he's automatically got respect. People are automatically going to look at him as a authoritarian figure in those groups because of what he's done as a Green Beret. We're talking Rambo type stuff. Green Berets, you know what I'm saying? One of the baddest dudes on the planet, and they tried. Huh?
It's scary. I mean, it makes it where you're even me, I'm nervous about talking about it, but I won't shut up because I don't know how. I honestly do not know how not to tell the truth. I don't know
kidding.
how to speak up. And it's scary to me because I'm like, that's why I had to quit being a cop, because I knew I would do something. I would always do the right thing. And even if it's my family's going to pay for it.
Josh, you don't think I'm nervous? Like, we're having, like I said, Stuart Rhodes, Jeremy Brown, Chris Worrell, all these January 6th political prisoners, and we're calling them out for the bullshit live on air with some of the most hated men by the government. Like, the government clearly hates these guys. Yeah. They clearly want to destroy their lives any way possible. And I find out that the FBI is asking other people who went to January 6th about me and showing them my mug shot. Every time I do one of those interviews or even discuss January 6th, I'm waiting for the pound on the door. It's the FBI knocking on my door to shut me down. Like, I literally think that's going to happen every single time. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here smoking weed on my show, getting high. And I'm like, Hi, Fed boys. What's going on, guys? I know you're listening. I know you're there. I'm enjoying my fat blunt and you guys can get fucked. Because I know they're watching. Like, I know there's no ifs, ands, or buts. They're listening. I think they have my phone tapped. Like, they're monitoring me every move that I make. Yeah, and it is very nerve wracking. I get a ton of anxiety about it. But at the end of the day, they're not going to stop or scare or intimidate me from doing what I'm doing. And if they're going to come and knock on my door and take me in, it's coming. Like, it's coming anyway. Like, if we lose this war, if we don't save our republic, if they can do what they're doing to Donald Trump, if they can do what they're doing to these January 6th political prisoners, anybody who questions the narrative, anybody who comes out and speaks out against their agenda, you guys are next, which I'm one of those people. I've been out here publicly speaking in front of tens of thousands of people for years now. Like, we do 30,000 downloads a month. Thousands of people all over the world listen to my show. And I'm very outspoken about what our government is doing. If we lose this war, if we do not save our republic, I am going to be in a gulag. Or I'm going to die trying because they're trying to take me in. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one or the other. Yeah. And that's an inevitability if we do not stand up now and save a republic. Like, I used to be okay with people being anonymous, and like, I used to understand why people would want to be anonymous because of what we're doing and what our government is doing to the people like us doing what we're doing. Yeah. I used to get it. But now I'm at the point where, like, hey, listen, it's no longer time to be anonymous. Your message would hold a lot more value if you stood behind it and say, hey, my name is James Currey. This is what I believe. This is why I believe it. And I will die on this hill defending it. It holds a lot more water and makes a bigger impact when you do those kinds of things. So I don't think being anonymous is okay, because guess what? If we lose this war and they do get their one world government and do what they want to do, your job is meaningless. You're going to be making the same amount as everybody else because that's what they want. They want a digital currency, social credit score. So what's the point of being a doctor and being a high achiever or trying to make something of yourself? You're going to get paid the same amount as everybody else. Yeah. Like, you might as well go work and flip burgers at Mickey D's and get paid the same amount as everybody else because you're part of the club. It's meaningless. So, like, why are you protecting your job? Like, the one thing the one thing that I still have a soft spot for is people that have young kids and they want to protect their kids.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I have a soft spot for. But at the same time, how are you going to protect your kids from prison? How are you going to protect your kids from the gulag? And how are you okay with leaving this country in a worse place for your children and your grandchildren when you die because you were too cowardly to stand up? Like, if I have kids and grandkids, I don't want them in the future be like, Grandpa James, what were you doing during this time when they were censoring everybody and throwing people into jail? Like, what were you doing during this whole time? I don't want to be like, oh, I was just worried about my job and, I didn't really do anything. I want to be able to be like, hey, here, look at what I did. This is how hard I fought. And this is everything that I put on the line to make sure that our republic is secured and our freedom is secured for your generation and future generations going forward. And I couldn't live with myself if I'm laying there on my deathbed and said, I cowered because the government intimidated me, because I was scared of the consequences of speaking the truth. Because that's all we're doing. We're speaking the truth. And if you're scared to speak the truth because of the government's power, then you're a coward. And I don't want you in the trenches with me anyway.
Yeah. When I worked for, when I worked as a sergeant, and I was fighting the police department, the city, and Tyson Foods, my chief literally told me, he said, you need to think about your child. I looked at him and I was like, that's exactly why I'm standing up, because I'm thinking about my child.
Yep.
I can't allow somebody to violate the constitutional rights. And when I say constitutional rights, it's actually inalienable rights. It's human rights. God-given rights. God-given rights. If you don't believe in God, it means you were just birthed with these rights.
You came out of your mother's vagina with these rights.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if you're I've ticked off patriots about this. I'm like, it doesn't matter if you're an American. It's inalienable and it's God-given, God doesn't just give it to Americans. It's everybody has these rights. You have the right to speak. You have the right to due process. You have the right to defend yourself. Even
if you're an illegal alien, like, you have the right to due process. Like, it's very possible that people get detained that are actually citizens.
Yeah,
and deported, and it's happened. So, and this is why people deserve due process. And this is why it's very important that it is given. And this is what they're trying to get rid of. They're trying to get rid of due process. They're trying to just be able to persecute anybody that they want.
Due process, simply, to put it simply, just means it allows time and energy to be spent to find out the truth instead of just assuming anything. So we have the right for us to gather the evidence to say, hey, here's what do you have? Because this says that I'm innocent.
Yep. And here's my defense.
They have to prove that you're guilty. That's why you have the right to remain silent. And some of the worst things a guilty person can do is talk.
Yep. Shut your fucking mouth.
Just let them talk. That's why some people, even if they are innocent, they know, because everything they forget about that part, will be held against you.
That's a big problem that even innocent people have as well. They start talking because they're in it. They're like, well, if I don't talk, it's almost like an admission of guilt. And they start talking, and then the cops use those words against them to jam them up and arrest, even though they're completely innocent. Even though they did nothing wrong, the cops will still use those words that you use to try to frame you for that crime or whatever they're trying to get you for.
In the 90s, interrogations have changed since then. It still happens, but mostly not. An admission of guilt actually isn't as powerful as it used to be.
No.
But you can get somebody. People would say, man, I am horrible. I noticed watching my own videos that I am horrible about stopping in the middle of a sentence and rephrasing things. But
that's why I don't watch myself.
Yeah, I do, just because I was so bad that I needed to learn how to get better, because I just sounded just horrible. I had some big guests on, and I totally screwed up the episode. It didn't go very far just because I was a complete moron.
I'm sure it was better than you give yourself credit.
It's possible, but I always,
'cause I'm hard on myself too. I'm very hard on myself as well. I'm like, what the fuck was I saying? Why did I say that? I'm an idiot. Like when I had Roger Stone on, I was like, oh fuck, I shouldn't. I acted like an idiot.
Yeah, I'm getting more like I'm starting to act myself instead of, because, well, just like that, I say a lot, which that's a subconscious insecurity about thinking that the other person doesn't understand. It's growing up when people didn't hear you or listen to you. So now you feel like you have to make sure that they understand you. And so I say, you know, a lot, and I'm trying to stop doing that.
I do things like that. I say again, like, I'm like, why am I even saying that? I do things like that all of the time.
Yeah.
100%.
It's trying to get better. That's you know,
for sure.
And a lot of times it's really, really difficult, and it's really hard when you don't have people that critique you. Like, I don't have people that tell me whether I'm doing good or bad on anything. My wife will occasionally, but I have to get her to watch something and tell me, you know, she doesn't just voluntarily watch my episodes and stuff, because she pays attention a little bit, but she gets most of her information from me. So,
that's the same how it's in my household. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, why would she watch what I say when she's already heard it all?
That's that's literally what she says to me. I'm like, can you watch my show? She's like, I talk to you every day. Like,
What I talk about on this, I talk about with my wife.
That's all I talk about. It's not, I can't talk about anything else. I literally can't.
It's funny. My best friend, my brother, people would get offended because he said this, but I didn't. We'd be at a get together and I'd meet one of his friends or relatives and I'd start talking to him, and he would walk up in between them and look at his friend and say, "Did he tell you?" He's like, "What?" He said, "Joshua has Asperger's." Well, he calls me Hayes. He said, "Hayes has Asperger's. So a lot of times he will talk and keep talking and keep going on this conversation. If you get bored of it, or if you want to go, you're going to have to just go, because he's not going to stop." And people get offended by that, but I'm like, it's true though. I mean, why would I get offended? It's a fact. You know, I don't know how to. And then, you know, we were at a dinner, and I'm talking to his dad, and me and his dad get along great. And I'm sitting there talking to him. Well, his brother he doesn't know me that well. And he was thinking that he should say, you know, my best friend should save his dad from me because I'm over talking. And so he explained to him, I was like, he said, Dad loves having conversations with him because I don't do just small talk. He said, but Hayes does not know how to do small talk. I don't. I can't.
I hate it.
If it's not a conversation of substance, I don't have it. So people will literally have to start talking to me and then just kind of slowly walking away because I get deep, and most people don't like getting deep.
Nope.
There's nothing I've ever come across that I couldn't have a deep conversation about, because I'm curious. I want to know. And that's what makes me where I know a lot. And I have a really good memory about things that I want to know about. So if I talk to you about it, I will remember what you say. And so it's impactful.
So it's funny because I joke around with my friends, and my friends joke around with me that I might be autistic. Because I do the same thing. Like I don't like once a conversation, like I don't shut up. Like it's very difficult to get me to shut the fuck up. And my co-host makes fun of me because I just don't stop talking, especially when it's something that I'm interested in. I'm thirsting for information.
Yeah.
I'm very similar in that aspect, and none of my conversations are small. I can't do small talk. I'm very awkward in small talk. Like I'm like, I don't feel comfortable just like shooting the breeze. Like, oh, how was your day? The weather is nice. Like, I'm like, I feel like a fucking idiot. Like, yeah, obviously the weather's nice. It's fucking sunny out.
I tried it in conversations when I had guests when I first started. I'm like, so what's the weather like over there? And I'm like, I don't even ask the weather here. I never. No, you got. Yeah. My wife tells me what the weather is.
You got to get right into it, and I have a big issue with it as well. Like one of the big issues that I have, because my ADHD is so bad. I'll be in a show having a conversation, and you'll say something that's a really valid point. My wheels will start spinning, and I'll have to make a point. And I'm sitting there in my head like, James, shut the fuck up. Yeah. Let him finish the point. Let him finish the point. Like in my head, I'm saying this to myself, but my mouth starts moving. It starts saying the point because I need to get it out. And I literally physically cannot stop it from doing that. And I'm talking to myself. James, don't fucking say it. Don't fucking say, oh, here it is, everybody. And he's in the middle of the conversation. And I'm like, fuck, I just interrupted this guy. And I do it all of the time. And I critique myself heavily. Like, as I'm doing it, I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. I should have waited. Yeah. But I literally can't help myself sometimes. Like I'm like itching. I'm like fucking a little kid ready to jump on a trampoline.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm stumbling over my words. Now I can't think of anything because now all the words are coming in my head at one time. And
yep.
Dude, you wouldn't know.
Dude, I think I might have Asperger's because me and you were fucking dead on similar.
I have a buddy that will constantly remind people. He's like, "Oh, he's riddled with Asperger's," and I'm like, I guess he heard it on a show or something. But when I was diagnosed, right before it was right in the middle of. I was a rookie police officer, and I was going through my second divorce, so it wasn't even that long ago. No, we weren't going through a divorce yet. We were in the middle of our marriage, but it was not really a marriage. We were roommates, and it was weird. I mean, we didn't say we were roommates, but it felt like roommates instead of actual marriage. But I got tested and everything, and they found out, and that from that moment on, I was able to start getting better, because if you would have known me back then, I was super awkward. Especially if you knew me younger. Before I joined a fraternity, I joined a fraternity in college simply because I didn't know how to communicate. Because from 17 to 21, I drank all the time because I learned when I was drunk, I could talk to people. And so I didn't want to do that. I go to college, which shocked everybody because they're like, I didn't know anybody at college. I didn't know anybody there at all. I was a loner, my whole life. And I mean, I had friends, but, they weren't college types. So I go to college. I joined a fraternity, which is like completely opposite. And it's an Animal House type fraternity, and I didn't drink much when I was there. Now, if I would have known, if I was the way I am now back then, I wouldn't have joined. But it helped me learn how to communicate with people a little better and at least go out and talk to people. Yeah. Then when I learned I had Asperger's, I knew what to fix. I knew what the problems were. I realized I don't look at people in their eye, even though I was raised that that's what you do as a man. You look at people in the eye, you shake their hand. I still don't like doing the fist bump thing. I think that's just retarded. But people do it, and so I've gotten where I'll do it if that's what they do. Used to, they do that, and I'd go like this while they're still doing it. I'm like, oh, I shake hands because I'm a man. But
it depends on the situation. Like if it's a quick passerby, like I'll just give a quick little dap up. But like if I'm introducing myself or going somewhere, it's always a handshake. Yeah, absolutely.
I've opened it. It's kind of like my name. I used to hate it when people called me Josh. I'm like, hey, do all Richards want to be called Dick? I'm like, my name's Joshua, not Josh. I'd get offended. Now I'm. Oh,
you prefer Joshua over Josh? I did not know that.
But I don't care now, to be honest. I really don't care. I was called Hayes most of my adult life.
Yeah, that's everybody called me by my last name too.
Yeah, I mean, it was easier. I didn't know any of my family, so I didn't have to get confused with any of them. But when I started overcoming stuff, and after my divorce, I was on pain pills really bad. I was taking 10 Lortab-10s a day. I was prescribed them, and it sounds like I was just sitting there eating pills, but I wasn't. Listen, there's 24 hours in a day, and I was taking 10 pills a day. I was taking, I'd take one or two every couple of hours.
Yeah.
And because
it adds up.
And it adds up. But
your tolerance is through.
I ended up in the ER twice when I was in Wyoming because I was compacted. I didn't realize you could die for not being able to shit. Had no idea. I actually would complain. I was like, I don't understand how people can go to the restroom every day. I'd go like once every 2 weeks.
That's fucking. I go like 3 or 4 times a day.
Oh yeah, shit. The older you get, the worse it gets.
This is my entire life.
Yeah, no.
I am a shit machine.
But I decided, I was like, I quit cold turkey. And I was also scared of heights.
God bless you.
And so I quit cold turkey and became a cell tower climber. And all at the same time.
You fucking climbed cell towers?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have pictures of me sitting up there at 400 feet up in the air, which is 40 stories, and taking pictures of the ground and stuff. There's one time that we were in a hurry, and this was a complete OSHA violation, but we were in a hurry. And so we attached a rope to the back of a truck, and I hooked my carabiner on the rope and slid down because we were in a hurry. Very, very dangerous. Did a lot of stupid things, but I get my palms are sweaty just thinking about
climbing those. I hate heights. I'm terrified of heights. I'm an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
Love. That's why I fought MMA. But I like my dream. If I die and I don't fly one of those wingsuits, like I'm not in the sky going 120 miles an hour flying those wingsuits, I didn't live. Like I need to do that once in my life. I need to have that experience.
Yeah. I firmly believe in facing your demons.
And I love that. I love that. But it's for me, like my fear is a lot different, and the demons are a lot different when there's like a little bit of cushion protection, like the parachute being protection is like, it's like my safety zone. Like, okay, I have a parachute when I jump out of the fucking airplane. I'm okay. I don't have to worry about dying. It's just going to be fun. Climbing, like, even though you have the carabiners and you're doing it, like climbing up that and looking like it makes my palms sweat, even though I know I'm safe. Like I feel like my arms would be like this shaking and I wouldn't be able to move the way I would want to. Like like for me, I go like, even though there's a railing on like the edge of a cliff, I go up to the railing and I'm like holding onto the railing and I'm like shaking, looking over. I'm like, if I slip, I'm screwed.
Yeah, my common sense wasn't there when it came to climbing. I didn't realize how hard it would be to climb, and it sucked the height, but I got used to that. It was that climbing straight up. I mean, if you look at my pictures, I went from, like I said, I was 185 pounds. I cut all the fat because I had a double chin at 185. I'm 205 right now, and I don't have a double chin. I'm in better shape than I was then. Because
muscles weighs more than fat, my friend.
Yeah. But I worked out all the time, but I worked out wrong. I was lifting heavy weights. I was my ego was there. But I got slender on this, doing this. But
it's a hell of a workout.
It is
400 feet climb.
and especially when you're getting off of Lortabs, which is basically a modified heroin. It's one of the few drugs that can kill you when you quit. But I didn't listen to that. I did it anyway. That's the problem. The way I was raised, and it's funny. I'm just now even thinking about this stuff because it didn't occur to me that my life was the way it was. You know, I just didn't put a lot of thought into it. But now I think about my childhood because I have a daughter. You know, I had an episode a couple of months ago that, and you know, again, I used to not even talk about this stuff, but I really believe that there is. I used to think it was stupid to talk about your problems. I don't believe in venting, but in this case, I guess it really does help. But I was driving to church to volunteer as security. My daughter was with me. My daughter's 5.5 years old. And all of a sudden I get this adrenaline dump. You being a fighter, you've had adrenaline dumps.
Very well aware.
You know, I grew up the way I grew up, so I recognized it a lot. And it just hit me. And I don't have, you know, you hear a fight or flight, fight, flight, or freeze. Well, I don't have a freeze or a flight. I've always had a fight reaction.
Yeah.
And my fight reaction isn't that angry fight. It's standing up, not backing down. Well, this was the first time I had a flight reaction. It scared the piss out of me. Well, I get to the church, which was only about 2 miles away, and it was a straight drive. And we get there and hand my daughter to her friends and their parents. And one of them, who knows me, asked me what was wrong because she could see I was confused. And she asked me, "Where's Sierra?" That's my wife's name. I didn't know who she was talking about. I was like, who's Sierra? And then she looked at me and she called my wife. And then I ended up calling. My wife calls me, and I didn't know her name, but I knew who she was. Then she asked me if Mark Sherwood was at the church, and you know who Dr. Mark Sherwood is, right? He's a good friend of mine, and I didn't know who that was. And I'm telling you, I'm not saying this is a good friend of mine that we happen to be acquaintances, but we call each other friends. He's actually a friend. He's a person I talk to, you know, when I'm having issues or something like that, or when I just want to talk to somebody or just see what's going on with his life.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I had to Google his name to figure out who he was, and I looked, and I knew who he was.
Really?
Yeah. I know it.
Adrenaline messes with the human body if you're not
for a week and a half, I was like this. I was this.
Wow.
I had never been suicidal a day in my life. I'm not that type of person. And for the first time in my life, I was like, I can't live like this. I was like, this is hell. But I saw my daughter, and I was like, and it upset me because I knew I couldn't kill myself because I had my daughter. So I wasn't suicidal, but I had the thought, and I was upset that I was not able to be suicidal because it was so upsetting to me because death was like right there. And I was so miserable. I had physical pain and physical anxiety so bad that nothing could make it better. Well, I go over to a buddy of mine's house, my brother, who I've been talking about. And then he asked me, and I don't talk to anybody about any issues. I don't talk to them about my childhood. Nobody knew about anything until the past couple of years. My wife didn't even know about my childhood. She just knew it was bad. Not because I'm embarrassed, but because I didn't feel the need. I'm like, how do you have a conversation like that? I didn't know how because I'd never had anybody to be like that with, Yeah,
I was just going to say that it probably has a lot to do with that. You've never had anybody to lean on to spitball what's going on in your life and
when I moved in
talk about it.
With my aunt and uncle at 10 years old, they knew they were taking custody of children that were abused. They never once asked me about how my life was, what I went through. Anything, never acted like it never happened. They asked my sister, but they never asked me. Nobody ever comforted me. I never had a counselor, never talked to anybody through my whole life. Never. Well, I'm talking to my buddy, and he says, well, because he knows what's happening, what's going on, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. He said, well, was there a time in your life that something really horrible happened? I'm like, starting when? And he's like,
how long do you have?
And he's like, well, the first time. I was like, when my mom was pregnant with me, my dad tried killing her. I was like, and then it just went downhill from there. And then he's like, okay. He said, what about the first time when you were your daughter's age? Did anything happen at that time? And it clicked. When I was about 5.5, 6 years old, we lived at an abandoned farmhouse in Kansas. And it was my mind's eye says it was pretty big. And it must have been because it had a silo, it had a barn, it had a hayloft.
Yeah.
So it must have been big. So, it must not just be my memory that said it was big because, everything's big when you're a child.
Of course.
I remember running into shotgun houses that I lived in when I was a child, and I thought they were big when I was a kid. And then I'm like, these things are small. They're like, shotgun houses. Anyway, I actually thought until I got old enough to realize that he couldn't have been in the Vietnam. I thought he was like a Vietnam vet or something because he played war games with me. He would hand me a rifle and he would have a slingshot, and my job was to go hide.
Yeah, you told me this story.
And I told you in person, didn't I? And he would hide, and I even have more memories now than I did at that time. And he would come find me, and I remember he shot me with a slingshot in the ankle. But I also remember one time that he actually shot me with a rifle, and I actually still have a scar on my leg where he shot me, and I'm 5.5 years old. But then I remembered also when we had this, we lived off well water. That we didn't have power or anything. Again, it was abandoned, but we lived off well water, and it tasted sour. And we go to the well, and he lowers me down into the well, this dark well, to go find this rat. And I had to get the rat out of the water. And I'm 5.5 years old. Imagine being now that I have my daughter, I imagine me at that age.
Sending her down there, yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit. I didn't realize that it was, because to me, in my mind's eye, I was mature enough and responsible enough and this, but now I'm like, and my daughter's super mature and responsible and stuff, but she would still, I couldn't imagine doing anything like any of this. And then it occurred. And what made me decide to talk to a counselor was that in that moment, it'd been a week and a half. I'd had these issues. It went away. I mean, I stopped feeling like that. I still have anxiety and stuff, but when people assume PTSD, and I like this famous actor, you probably won't recognize his name, but you'll recognize his face. Graham Greene. He's a native Indian. He was in Maverick. He was the Indian chief in Maverick. He's been in a lot of movies. Very famous guy, really great. But I just watched a video of him, and God, I almost started bawling. I didn't realize he was a Vietnam vet. He was a sergeant, or he was a squad leader. He was a sergeant, I think, squad leader, but he was also an undercover narcotics officer, all before he was ever a cop. But he got diagnosed with he said PTS. He said, notice I didn't say D. He said, because it's not a disorder. He said, there is nothing wrong with you. He said, post-traumatic stress simply says that you are human, that what you went through was very traumatic and you're human because of it. And I'm like, I like that, because I don't like being weak. That's why I never talked about anything. That's why I'm not a vibracious type of person. I'm not this machoism. I'm not that guy.
It's close. Do you mind if I smoke?
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay, I always ask.
I told I mean, come on. To all my Christian friends out there that are going to say how wrong that is and stuff, Jesus hang out with winos. In fact, according to several scripts I've read, that he did it so often that the Pharisees would call him a wine tipper because they thought he was one, but he just hung out with them.
Wine has to be created where, in my opinion, marijuana grows from the earth, how it comes. And we've been using it for medicine for centuries. And now only in the past, since the 1930s, have they deemed this medicine as taboo.
Yeah. So I don't judge. I don't care. Even if I did it, I don't think there's necessarily a problem with it. There is just, there should be a structure to it. Like, don't do it around kids. Don't be high and drive, that kind of stuff. But other than that, just be responsible.
Absolutely. For me, I'll tell you right now, I've been smoking for so long. I don't really get high anymore. I really don't. For me, it helps with my anxiety. More than anything. My anxiety is through the roof, and it really helps with my stomach issues. I have terrible IBS. And if I don't smoke in the morning, I'm shit.
The shitting all day. Every day.
All day, dude. All day. Like if I don't smoke, like after my first poop, I'll be pooping all fucking day. Literally on the toilet. I can't drink coffee.
I've tried smoking pot. People said it helped my pain, but it did not. And people say it helped my anxiety, and it actually made it worse. But that's the way it affects me, because I don't like things controlling me like that.
So I'll tell you, because I used to be like you. Like in high school, I was very anti-weed, very anti-anything. To the point where I cut off my cousin that I was very close with because he started smoking weed.
Yeah.
And then I realized that we were lied to heavily. When I was in high school, I went to a Catholic school, and we were the only school in the country that had a drug testing program. And it was voluntarily, but your parents would sign you up when you're 14. So you're in on it. And my one buddy, he got expelled because he had a dime bag on him, and he grew up in a really rough household. His mother worked overseas, and he had a foreign exchange 22-year-old babysitter that would just party all the time. And he lost his father when he was in 8th grade, and he grew up in a really pretty rough neighborhood. And he got caught with a dime bag, and they expelled him. And we did this whole campaign to try to get him to stay in the school, because that would be the best place for him to recover and be, learn and things like that. And the school did not have it at all. And after that, the random drug test program turned into me being drug tested every week. That was supposed to be random. And out of spite, the night I graduated, I smoked weed for the first time when I was 18 years old. And I'm the type of person that when I do something, I need to figure out what the fuck I did. So I spend hours and hours and hours researching what I just ingested and what I just put into my body. And it made me realize that we were lied to heavily about this plant. And what really, I don't, just like religion or anything like that, I don't force marijuana on anybody. If it's not for you, it's not for you. And I get it. But what I tell people is, I guarantee the reason why you feel like it's not for you is because you haven't found the proper combination for your body. So a lot of people aren't aware, Josh, that we have an endo or the largest system in our body. I always ask any doctor that I go to, the largest system in our body is the endocannabinoid system. It's part of our endocrine system.
Yeah.
And what the endocannabinoid system is, and you can Google this, look it up, is a system of receptors that receive cannabinoids.
Yeah.
The marijuana plant is made up of thousands of cannabinoids, some that we haven't even discovered yet. But CBD, CBN, CBG, THC, these are all cannabinoids, and our body have receptors for these cannabinoids, and opioids actually block all of those receptors, so you cannot receive the cannabinoids. So our body requires cannabinoids. Now, there's cannabinoids called terpenes, and terpenes are what you get your smells and your tastes from. Every living organism has terpenes. The fruits, the vegetables, that's where we get our smells and flavors from, is from the terpenes. But these terpenes, they also have medicinal values. Like, for example, the best way for people to understand is essential oils. You know how people use essential oils to get certain moods, like lavender to help relax, lemon and citrus to feel euphoric and things like that. Yeah. Those are very, very real. And you ever like smell the food, and when you smell it, your body is just like, oh my God, I can't wait to eat this. Like your whole body is salivating over the food. That's your body telling you you're craving those terpenes, those medicinal things that are coming to your body. And the issue is the black market. You don't get to pick and choose what terpenes are in your cannabis and what work best with your body. Yeah. And a lot of people, you're just like your immune system, your nervous system is different than mine. Your endocannabinoid system is different than mine. So what strains work best for me and make me feel comfortable and my anxiety go away may fuel your anxiety. It may make your anxiety worse because your body is different. Because of the black market, you're not able to explore and figure out which cannabinoids work best with your body to cancel out any anxiety, any nervousness that you might have, or whatever ailment, the pain, things like that. Like, for example, one of the terpenes that I love for my pain is myrcene. Myrcene is found in mangoes as well, but myrcene is what helps with joint aches and pains. That's where you get that joint ache and pain feeling, and that couch lock when you smoke weed. You're stuck in the couch and your body's just like loosey goosey. It's from the myrcene. And if you're not smoking weed with myrcene in it, you're not going to get that effect on your pain receptors that you would with a strain that's very high in myrcene content. Yeah. And that's the problem with the black market. So my girlfriend is the same as you. She doesn't smoke. Yeah. I don't mind it because it's more weed for me. Yeah. I don't have to spend as much money. I don't have to buy as much weed. But at the same time, I tell her the same thing. And, when she has stomach issues, she'll occasionally take a hit with me, and she'll notice certain strains she doesn't like. Certain strains she loves it. She's relaxed. She's not too high. She's comfortable, and her stomach isn't bothering her. But certain strains, she'll take one hit and she'll be in her head. She doesn't feel comfortable. Her skin is crawling. Yeah. And that's the problem with the black market. So I truly think, just like a lot of things, the education is key. Most people aren't aware of what's going on. And a lot of people, and I will agree, this is the one thing that I tell people that are anti-pot and think pot is bad. I will agree that smoking and inhaling hot smoke is not healthy for you. That is not a good way to consume the medicine. You're going to be doing not nearly as much harm as smoking cigarettes, because there's no carcinogens and chemicals and things like that. But still, you're inhaling hot smoke into your lungs is not the best way to consume it. Whether if you could do tinctures or things like that, or even a vaporizer is not a bad way. When I worked at a dispensary out here, a lot of people from the middle of the country where it's illegal, they would come to Vegas and they'd want to do an edible because, I don't want to smoke cannabis, but it's legal here, so I'll try it when in Rome, kind of thing. Yeah. And they'd want to get an edible, and I'd always steer them away from that because it's set up for a bad experience. Most people, they want to take an edible because it's not smoking, and they're like, okay, I'll just take a little bit, and they'll take a small bite or like 10 milligrams and they'll eat it. And a half hour, 45 minutes later will go by and they won't feel it. They're like, oh, I didn't feel nothing. They'll eat the whole thing. and it's always got a delayed response, and your body breaks down edibles different than the actual flower. It gets broken down in your liver and releases a chemical in your liver that makes the feeling that much more intense. It's like on steroids almost. And it ruins people's experience. They're like, oh, I don't like weed because they ate an edible and they have no idea. So I always tell people to educate themselves and do a little trial and error on your own time. Obviously, if you have shit to do and things like that, that's not the time to do a trial and error. But there's everybody has their own journey, and it can be very beneficial for many different things, even if it's just at night when you're winding down the day to de-stress and take down the day. But for me, like I couldn't get through a whole day without shit in my pants if I didn't smoke weed.
I think it's a lot better than pharmaceuticals.
And that's another reason why I went to cannabis, because when my neck injury happened, they were trying to force me to take all of these opioids. They were like, hey, here's these opioids. They were trying to force feed them. And they made me literally sign
morphine.
Yep.
Yeah.
They literally made me sign paperwork saying I was denying medication.
Yeah.
That I was denying treatment. I was like, I don't want to be hooked on these things. Like, I don't know how long, like I would have been screwed, because it was 28 when I started my treatment and I got in my accident. And when everything was done, I was 32.
Yeah.
Being on pain pills for that long, good luck getting off of them. Good luck.
Yeah.
And, I resorted to cannabis. And did it completely subside the pain? Absolutely not. But did it help? Yes. It almost made it like I was able to forget it was there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, the pain was still there, but I was able to not really think about it, kind of thing. I was able to focus on other things. But it's helped with my ADD big time. The thing that's actually, Joshua, the thing that's actually helped me the most with my ADD and my focus and my attention are microdoses. That has been the biggest game changer in my life that I wish I had at a younger age, because I call it the limitless pill. So just like you, where you'll start a sentence and midway through, you're like, oh, fuck, what was I saying? Yeah. I do it all the time. I do it all of the time. Or someone says something and it triggers a memory, and it's like at the tip of your tongue, but you can't get it out. You're like, what the fuck am I trying to say? You know, that feeling happens to me all of the time. And I was given these microdoses. So you don't trip. There's no psychoactive feeling to it, but it helps with my cognitive function. I call it the limitless pill. Like those times where things are at the tip of my tongue, it's right there in the front of my brain to pick up and say. I don't forget what I was saying all of the time. My ADD, I'm a lot more focused. I'm not like all over the place. Like, oh, there's a squirrel. Oh, there's a fucking squirrel. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really helped me big time. And it's made with 0.02 of psilocybin. So a very little amount of psilocybin. It's made with lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, and a couple other cognitive function mushrooms. And it's been a total game changer for my cognitive function and my retardation.
Hey guys, I want to personally thank everyone for liking and sharing my videos. If you want to continue to see my content, all you got to do is press that subscribe button, and I'll notify you as soon as a new video comes out. I don't get paid for any of this. So if you want to buy some of my merch, like my shirts, like Jesus is a Badass or my Don't Be a Dick shirt, you can easily go to my merch store, which is at sogtv.org, which I will have it in the description at every video. So push that, go buy yourself a shirt. I appreciate it. Have a blessed day, and I will see you at the next episode. Thank you.